Hello again. It's Sidney Kean with Chapter 9, Part 1 of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. When he arrived on the shore, Pinocchio looked out to sea, but he could see no dogfish. The sea was as smooth as a great crystal mirror. "Where is the dogfish?" he asked, turning to his companions. "He must have gone for his breakfast," said one of them, laughing. "Or he's thrown himself onto his bed to have a little nap," added another, laughing even louder. From their answers and silly laughter, Pinocchio perceived that his companions had been making a fool of him. Taking it very badly, he said to them angrily, "And now may I ask what fun you could find in deceiving me with the story of the dogfish?" "Oh, it was great fun," answered the little rascals in chorus, "making you miss school and persuading you to come with us." "Are you not ashamed of always being so punctual and so diligent with your lessons? Are you not ashamed of studying so hard?" "And if I study hard, what concern is it of yours?" "It concerns us excessively, because it makes us appear in a bad light to the master." "Then what must I do to please you?" "You must follow our example and hate school, lessons, and the master, our three great enemies." "And if I wish to continue my studies, in that case we'll have nothing more to do with you, and at the first opportunity we'll make you pay for it." "Really?" said the puppet, shaking his head. "Hey, Pinocchio!" shouted the biggest of the boys, confronting him. "None of your superior airs. Don't come here to crow over us, for if you're not afraid of us, we're not afraid of you. Remember that. You are one against 7 of us." "Oh, 7? Oh, the 7 deadly sins," said Pinocchio, laughing. "Listen to him. He's insulted us all, called us the 7 deadly sins. Pinocchio, beg our pardon, or it'll be the worse for you." "Cuckoo," sang the puppet, putting his forefinger to the end of his nose, scoffingly. "Pinocchio, it'll end badly." "Cuckoo." "You'll get as many blows as a donkey." "Cuckoo." "You will return home with a broken nose." "Cuckoo." "Oh, I'll give you cuckoo, and you can take it home and have it for your supper tonight." And so saying, he gave him a blow on the head with his fist. But it was give and take, for the puppet immediately returned the blow, and the fight in a moment became general and desperate. Pinocchio, although he was one alone, defended himself like a hero. He used his feet, which were of the hardest wood, to such purpose that he kept his enemies at a respectful distance. Whenever they touched, they left a bruise by way of reminder. The boys, becoming furious at not being able to measure themselves hand to hand with the puppet, had recourse to use other weapons. Loosening their satchels, they commenced throwing their school books at him, grammars, dictionaries, spelling books, geography books, and other scholastic works. But Pinocchio was quick and had sharp eyes, and always managed to duck in time, so that the books passed over his head and all fell into the sea. Just then, the boys, who had no more books of their own to throw, spied at a distance the satchel that belonged to Pinocchio, and took possession of it. Amongst the books there was one bound in strong cardboard with the back and points of parchment. It was a treatise on arithmetic. One of the boys seized this volume and, aiming at Pinocchio's head, threw it at him with all the force he could muster. But instead of hitting Pinocchio, it struck one of his companions on the temple, who, turning as white as a sheet, said only, "Oh, mother, help, help, I am dying," and fell his full length on the sand. Thinking he was dead, the terrified boys ran off as hard as their legs could carry them, and in a few minutes they were out of sight. But Pinocchio remained. He ran, soaked his handkerchief in the sea, and began to bathe the temples of his poor schoolfellow, crying bitterly in his despair. He kept calling him by name and saying to him, "Eugene, oh, Eugene, Eugene, my poor schoolfellow, oh, my poor Eugene, open your eyes and look at me." And Pinocchio cried and sobbed. He struck his head with his fists to call Eugene by his name. Suddenly, he heard the sound of approaching footsteps. He turned and saw 2 carabiniers. "What are you doing lying on the ground?" they asked Pinocchio. "I'm helping my schoolfellow." "Has he been hurt?" "So it seems." "Hurt indeed," said one of the carabiniers, stooping down and examining Eugene closely. "This boy has been wounded in the temple. Who wounded him?" "Not I," stammered the puppet breathlessly. "If it's not you, then who did it?" "Not I," repeated Pinocchio. "And with what was he wounded?" "With this book." "And to whom does this book belong?" "To me." "That is enough. Nothing more is wanted. Get up, and you come with us at once." But I am innocent." "Come along with us." Before they left, the carabiniers called some fishermen who were passing at that moment near the shore in their boat and said to them, "We give this boy who has been wounded in the head into your charge. Carry him to your home and nurse him. Tomorrow we will come and see him." They then turned to Pinocchio, and having placed him between them, said to him in a commanding voice, "Forward, and walk quickly." They had already reached the village when a gust of wind blew Pinocchio's cap off his head and carried it 10 yards off. "Will you permit me," said the puppet to the carabiniers, "to go and get my cap?" "Go then, but be quick about it." The puppet went and picked up his cap, but instead of putting it on his head, he took it between his teeth and began to run as hard as he could towards the seashore. The carabiniers, seeing this, thinking it would be difficult to overtake him, sent after him a large mastiff dog. Pinocchio ran, but the dog ran faster. He and the dog raised such clouds of dust that in a few minutes nothing could be seen of either of them. You must know that Alidoro, for so the mastiff was called, ran so swiftly that he had nearly come up with Pinocchio. The puppet could hear the panting of the dreadful beast close behind him. There was not a hand's breadth between them. He could even feel the dog's hot breath. Fortunately, the shore was close, and the sea but a few steps off. As soon as he reached the sands, the puppet made a wonderful leap. A frog could not have jumped better, and plunged into the water. Alidoro, on the contrary, wished to stop himself, but carried away by the impetus of the race, he also went into the sea. The unfortunate dog could not swim, and made great efforts to keep himself afloat with his paws, but the more he struggled, the farther he sank under the water. When he rose to the surface again, his eyes were rolling with terror, and he barked out, "I am drowning! I am drowning! Rah! Rah! Drown!" shouted Pinocchio from a distance, seeing himself safe from all danger. "Help me! Rah! Dear Pinocchio! Rah! Save me from death! Rah!" At that agonizing cry, the puppet, who had in reality an excellent heart, was moved with compassion, and turning to the dog, he said, "But if I save your life, Will you promise not to run after me?" "I promise! Rah! I promise! Rah! Be quick, for pity's sake, for if you delay another half-minute, I shall be dead!" Rah! Pinocchio hesitated. But remembering that his father had often told him that a good action is never lost, he swam to Alidoro, and taking hold of his tail with both hands, brought him safe and sound onto dry sand on the beach. The dog could not stand. He had drunk so much water against his will, so much salt water, that he was like a balloon. The puppet, not wishing to trust him too far, thought it more prudent to jump again into the water. When he'd swum some distance from the shore, he called out to the friend he had rescued, "Goodbye, Alidoro. A good journey to you, and take my compliments to all at home." "Rah! Goodbye, Pinocchio," answered the dog. "Rah! Rah! 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 A thousand thank yous for having saved my life. You have done me a great service, and in this world what is given is returned. If an occasion offers, I shall not forget it." Rah! Pinocchio swam on, keeping always near the land. At last he thought that he had reached a safe place. Giving a look along the shore, he saw amongst the rocks a kind of cave from which a cloud of smoke was ascending. "In that cave," he said to himself, "there must be a fire. So much the better. I will go and dry and warm myself, and then we shall see." He approached the rocks, but as he was going to climb up, he felt something under the water that rose higher and higher and carried him into the air. He tried to escape, but it was too late, for he found himself enclosed in a great net, together with a swarm of fish of every size and shape, who were flapping and struggling like so many despairing souls. At the same moment, a fisherman came out of the cave. He was so ugly, so horribly ugly, that he looked like a sea monster. Instead of hair, his head was covered with green, thick bush of grass. His skin was green, his eyes were green, his long beard that came down to the ground was also green. He had the appearance of an immense lizard standing on its hind paws. When the fisherman had drawn his net out of the sea, he exclaimed with great satisfaction, "Oh, thank heaven! Again today I shall have a splendid feast of fish." "What a mercy that I am not a fish," said Pinocchio to himself, regaining a little courage. The net full of fish was carried into the cave, which was dark and smoky. In the middle of the cave, a large frying pan full of oil was frying and sending out a smell of mushrooms that was suffocating. "Now we will see what fish we have taken," said the green fisherman, and putting his hand into the net, an enormous amount that looked like a baker's shovel, he pulled out a handful of mullet. Oh, these mullet are good," he said, looking at them and smelling them complacently. And after he had smelt them, he threw them into the frying pan without water. He repeated the same operation many times, and as he drew out the fish, his mouth watered, and he said, chuckling to himself, "What good whiting! What exquisite sardines! Oh, these soles are delicious, and these crabs excellent! What dear little anchovies!" I need not tell you that the whiting, the sardines, the soles, the crabs, and the anchovies were all thrown promiscuously into the pan to keep company with the mullet. The last to remain in the pan was Pinocchio. No sooner had the fisherman taken him out than he opened his big green eyes with astonishment and cried, half frightened, "What species of fish is this? Fish of this kind I have never remembered to have eaten." And he looked at him again attentively, and having examined him well all over, he ended by saying, "I know. This must be a crawfish." Pinocchio, mortified at being mistaken for a crawfish, said in an angry voice, "A crawfish indeed? What treatment! Let me tell you that I am a puppet." "A puppet?" replied the fisherman. "To tell the truth, a puppet is quite a new fish for me. All the better I shall eat you with the greatest pleasure." "Eat me? But will you understand that I am not a fish? Do you hear that I talk and reason as you do?" "That is quite true," said the fisherman, "and as I see that you are a fish possessed of the talent of talking and reasoning, I will treat you with all the attention that is your due. In token of my friendship, I will leave you the choice of how you would like to be cooked." "To tell the truth," answered Pinocchio, "if I am to choose, I should prefer to be set at liberty and to return home." You are joking. Do you imagine that I would lose the opportunity of tasting such a rare fish? It is not every day that a puppet fish is caught in these waters. I will fry you with the other fish, and you will be quite satisfied. It is always consolation to be fried in company." At this speech, the unhappy Pinocchio began to cry and scream and to implore for mercy, and he said, sobbing, "How much better it would have been if I had gone to school. I would listen to my companions, and now I am paying for it." And he wriggled like an eel and made efforts to slip out of the clutches of the green fisherman, but it was useless. The fisherman took a long strip of rush, and having bound his hands and feet as if he had been a sausage, he threw him into the pan with the other fish. He then fetched a wooden bowl full of flour and began to flour them each in turn, and as soon as they were ready, he threw them into the frying pan.